downtown Hollywood. This is SoFloRadio.com. SoFloRadio.com presents CEOmanship, becoming a leader in today's business world, with your host, Steve Gordon, CEO of Gordon Partnership Group, an international business consulting firm specializing in CEO bootcamp, sales team training, as well as client growth and retention. Visit GordonPartnershipGroup.com. Gordon Partnership Group. Your success is our business. And now, here's your host, Steve Gordon.
Wow, here we are, George. It's another Monday.
It is another Monday, and that's very, very talk show host of you for the camera to come on. In the olden days, we never had cameras, so people couldn't see that the talk show host would be writing something, reading something, right up until the microphone came on, and that's exactly what you were doing. And there you were.
There I was. There I am. There we are.
And here we are.
George, first of all, I just wanted to say to you that it's great to be back. You know, I've had a couple weeks hiatus, as they say, using a little jargon.
I hate that.
I know, but it's been great.
You
You know what? The best part is now that I'm back, I have to tell you, we are in season. And as much as I'm like, snowbirds, I am like totally digging the weather.
I knew when that rain came in, that cold front, I go, and so it begins.
It does begin.
The nice weather and all of the people that are running away from their weather.
I know. And, you know, look, it's true now. All like the stores and the restaurants and the traffic are all kind of busier, but that's okay because last night Lori and I were walking the dogs and it was like cool and breezy, and we looked at each other and we go, okay, we're in 6 months, baby. This is it. This is what we live for. It's good to be back. I am so excited today. I just want to tell you, for those of you who are just tuning in, my name is Steve Gordon. You're listening to CEOmanship Radio and CEOmanship Television on SoFlo Radio and SoFloTelevision.com. To my left, for those of you looking and watching on your right, is George Rodriguez. George, good friend, producer. You actually own this place.
The Bon Vivant. Man about town. Yes, I do. I own the place.
Wow.
I own this joint.
And you admit it. Yes.
I do admit it. It's the burning barrel of the broadcast industry.
Whatever that means, it's good. Hey, you know, two things. One,
it's a
could
light
you
in the
pass me one of
darkness.
those coasters because you'll yell at me that my water made a ring on the table. And
yes, and it's also they're specially designed for their acoustic properties.
And for their acoustic
They
properties.
make your water sound better.
Water wetter or something like that. Anyway, I'm really excited. I have such a great guest on today's show, and we're going to bring him on very, very shortly. But let me tell you two things. We have a very, very, George, when you're ready, you have to turn this way and look at me.
I'm ready.
Because I have a very big announcement.
Because I was looking at our guest.
Good.
I can see our guest. The audience can't yet.
Right, well, we'll bring him on in a second.
I could tease it.
That's it. You tease it, boy. And
that's all you get. That's all you get.
There's the tease. Now you got you went to the wrong picture. And then the other thing is that for those of you who are listening today live, you will have the opportunity to receive a very, very special and I think really life-changing gift. But we're not going to tell you about that until the end of the show. So right before we bring our guest on, I'm going to tell everybody who he is in a second, but this is a big deal, right? You wanted to just share something really quick. I know you're very excited.
I am excited. I didn't know you were going to let me, but I got them over here in the drawer.
I originally told you I
These are the
wasn't.
new corporate checks. It's not the only time we've had corporate checks here at SoFlo Radio, but these have our I don't even know if you can see it, our logo emblazoned on it. You can't see it.
What
So
you're
there it is. You
basically
can kind of
telling
see it
people is
that way.
I've been doing this
kind
show
of looks
now
like the banner behind me.
for like a year at least, and we finally got you moving
Yeah,
up into the new
the previous
age of,
checks were very plain, very Spartan.
I hate to tell you this, George, but now that you've done that, nobody uses checks anymore. We all pay things like
I thought that. I thought that.
I mean, even bank checks, compared to like Apple Pay, this is a business show. I got to throw.
I was
those up
hoping
into
for
there.
that nobody used checks anymore, but
You still have to make the payments.
They
though.
they want checks here. The rent people, the studio, the executive center want checks.
Well, we'll work on that.
So all right, good.
So I want to tell you today, Dr. F. John Michael Salvato. Can we bring Dr. Salvato's picture up on the screen?
Absolutely. I was wondering.
All right, yes, let's bring him up. Dr. John Michael Salvato is one of the world's most sought-after executive development and peak performance coaches. He's also one of the top motivational speakers, and he is a #1 best-selling inspirational author. John Michael is an educational leader who's worked with and mentored some of the most successful entrepreneurs in the field of direct sales and internet marketing, as well as world-class athletic coaches and their athletes. Dr. Salvato is going to help you refine the mental skills. I know that may be tough at this time of the day, but the mental skills necessary to perform at your best when it means the most while cultivating primary greatness. John Michael has addressed audiences of over 5,000 with what he calls his edutainers, and we'll talk about what that means in a minute, approach, and he's always a big hit with his audience. Dr. Salvato's unique approach to success coaching and peak performance is going to help each of you listening today, whether you're listening live or in our archives in the future, to unlock your potential and to give you that competitive advantage in life. This is a business show. He's created what's called his Prosperity Reinvented approach, which simplifies the complex. It gives you easy-to-use and effective strategies that you can apply immediately to drastically and dramatically improve the quality of your performance and your experience of life itself. More importantly than all of that, at least as far as I'm concerned, Dr. Salvato and I have been friends for 21 years. We have been involved in a couple of business ventures together, nothing in a very long time. There's a hint. And it is an absolute pleasure to have you on today's show. Dr. Salvato, welcome. John Michael, how are you?
Hey, thanks for having me on, Steve. It's great to be here.
It is great to have you. I appreciate you taking some time out of your busy day. You got a lot going on. When you and I first met, it was 21 years ago, and we created, along with another partner of ours, Jonathan Lazat, who was up in Connecticut. Now he's, I understand, in Southwest Florida. You, Jonathan, and I, and eventually one other partner, we actually were involved in what one might consider, I think, really was the first social network, even before Facebook. That was an interesting ride, don't you think?
Absolutely. And you know, if there was anything that we learned from that, it was that, you know, visionaries can sometimes be so visionary that they're 10 or 15 years ahead of the rest of the public. And that makes for an interesting ride when you're talking about having a social network, a place where business entrepreneurs can come together and network with one another. If they don't really understand what the internet's all about, that can really make things a little bit challenging, as we learned.
Well, you know, it was interesting because we were ahead of our time. And what's interesting is 21 years ago, we were doing exactly what you're doing right now. You're just doing it sort of turbocharged, which is to help people who aren't really capable or able at the current time to market online successfully, and to teach them and to make it very, very simple. And so with that said, you know, you're doing a lot online. Tell me a little bit about what you got going on right now. We've talked about a few things. We mentioned the term edutainers approach. Let's start with that. What does that mean, an edutainer?
Well, you know, Steve, I think that one of the times in our lives, if we look back at say the last 10, 15, 20 years of our lives, everyone who's listening, the times when we come away with the most insight, the most personal growth, are usually either the times that are really horrible experiences or the times when we really have fun. And so when I get up on stage or I'm doing a workshop online, the last thing I want to do is make somebody have a horrible experience, even if that's something that's going to help them take away a great learning experience. So I decided to go for the easy road and entertain them, make them happy, bring them to a place where they can connect with that part of us that each one of us has, that has all of the resources, that has all of the skills necessary that just haven't necessarily been uncovered yet or rediscovered maybe. And then to also be able to tap in to that network of resources that every one of us has all around us. And that's what coaching is all about. It isn't about coming together with somebody and telling them what to do. It's not about teaching them, like a professor in a college does. When you coach, you help people to tap into those inner resources, to tap into those skill sets that they already have, while challenging them to stretch and reach outside themselves to some of the resources that might exist that they might not know about, that's going to help them to develop new skill sets.
Well,
so that's how we entertain them.
And I love that because, sometimes you go to a quote unquote seminar, and we've all been there, right? You sit there in the audience and your speaker is dry, or they're just sort of reading notes, or they're almost worse than that. They've got a PowerPoint with 100 different bullet points, and they're reading every single bullet point word for word, and you're itching in your seat to just get out of there. I'm like moving around in my seat. I know you can't see me, I can see you, but you're like wiggling in your seat, and the last thing you want to do is be there. And so when you do sit in front of somebody who's not only knowledgeable but entertaining, and makes you laugh and makes you think and stretches your mind beyond where you thought you would be when you came in there, that's a great day. And that's not only a great day for you, but it's the kind of situation I know that when I come back from that kind of seminar, whether it's online or out of my outside of my home office, I love being able to turn to somebody and go, wow, that person's incredible. And so you can generate, that sort of online, offline chatter that drives more and more people to you. And I know that that's something you're going to talk about in a little bit. I want to go back for a second, if I can. We talked about this online social network that we were part of. Maybe I'll let you share with our audience a little bit about that experience, because I want to take that and then I want to sort of move forward and fast forward about 10, 15 years and then jump up to where we are now. So when we first met, we had this crazy idea, and I think our audience would rather hear it from you than from me.
Absolutely. Our idea was that, we took a look at what all of us, the three partners, were doing in our own businesses and in our own, the projects that we were working on. And we recognized that one of the reasons why we were able to be so successful was that we weren't about going out and focusing on making a sale as something that you do to another person. We weren't out there pitching products. We weren't out there, physically trying to get someone to do something to benefit us. What we were doing is we were going out there and establishing, cultivating relationships. And so in our experiences, the reason that we were more successful, the reason that we moved more product, the reason that we had better, bottom lines was because every single day we went out there and we talked to 5 or 6 or 10 more people. And we cultivated relationships that were based on bringing value to the marketplace, what we call today a value-oriented marketing or value-added marketing. And we were bringing that value to the marketplace because we recognize that people don't buy products, people buy results. And so the only way we can deliver a result to somebody is to get to know them, to get to understand what it is that they're looking for and what solutions they're looking for, what problems they're trying to address. And so we thought, well, we'll start this social network where entrepreneurs can come. And if I'm talking to somebody and I build a relationship with somebody and I understand that they have a particular problem that one of my other associates can solve, then doesn't it make more sense to say, hey, let me introduce you to a friend of mine so that we're doing the same thing that chambers of commerce set out to do and that other business networks try to do. And in a course of 18 months, we were able to grow a team of 358,000 men and women in no small part because of what you and I brought to the table every single week in teaching people to think outside the box and to maybe explore their options for a different way of doing business. 358,000 people in 39 countries in just under 18 months. And frankly, I don't know anyone else that was able to do that up until that time.
It's interesting because I want to share with our audience, there are people today that say, well, 358,000, in a social network, that's not such a big deal. But what people don't, think about, especially the younger folks, is we were at the forefront of personal computers. websites did not look like they looked like today. There was no video conferencing. We were out there connecting people with a great idea, and these are paying members of a community. That doesn't include all the non-paying members, and we really had a great time doing that. And unfortunately, the sad ending to that story, because I've talked about it on this show before, is that we were among some of the top ranked websites being visited every single week, every single day. I mean, we were really up in the top numbers. I think sometimes in the top 50 back then. But unfortunately, we were about to be bought out right when the dot-com bust happened, and so that effort gave us a lot of experience, but no real financial return. But you know what? We learned a lot, and more importantly, you and I got to work together, and we got to recognize each other's strengths. And you've heard Lori and I speak all the time when we talk about the term best and highest use. And I use that term all the time when I'm consulting, working with business clients, or just coaching sales teams. If everybody puts in their best and highest use and tries not to be something that somebody else can do better, together the team gets bigger, better, stronger, faster. And you and I, we went our different ways. If I recall, right after that or right before that, I can't remember, you were involved in some direct marketing. You made millions of dollars in direct selling. And that was a great experience. I know several years ago, you've gone on and you've done some consulting. You have an incredible history. You've authored books. You have coached. You have a degree in nutrition and are really. I think that's you and Lori. Sometimes the two of you speak a different language when you're talking about health and wellness. And then you also were a leader in the salon industry, if I recall, too, somewhere when our paths were not crossing. And that was an interesting ride. If I recall, you were down here in South Florida for a while, weren't you?
Yeah, I was. After starting my career in direct sales and realizing that was really going to be my home, I think for the rest of my life. As you said, I achieved some great success, $300,000 profit my first year. Went on to parlay that into a 6 and then later 7-figure higher income. And then shortly after our social network went south. I went south and I opened up 6 salons and spas. I was in the process right at that time of getting my doctorate as a naturopathic physician, and I recognized had a really close friend up in Connecticut, and her name was Noelle DiCaprio, and her salons were called Joelle's Day Spa, and she was the owner of the first spa in North America, the first spa type salon. And in talking with her, I really got inspired. And she was a woman who was living with cancer and who recognized a need to sort of empower women to make better choices in their lives and to take better care of themselves, to pamper themselves. So we started, long story short, 6 salons and spas over a course of 3 years. And one of them was down in South Florida. Actually, 2 of them as the years went on. One in Fort Lauderdale, one in Miami, North Miami Beach, one in Orlando, one in Atlanta, a couple in Phoenix and Scottsdale. And the idea was to bring this idea of pampering yourself and naturopathic medicine, natural health. I went on to become a naturopathic physician. And so we incorporated all of that stuff at the same time that we were running some free clinics for people with AIDS and cancer. And it was an amazing experience because it sharpened and refined my focus to understand that at the end of the day, when we come home and we've helped somebody to find solutions for the things that are causing them suffering, there's no greater feeling. And if you focus on that, Zig Ziglar always said, help people get what they want. And if you help enough of them, you're going to get what you want. And that really was how it ended up working out, even if that wasn't always our focus, that by helping people to find solutions to what's causing them pain, we always end up succeeding.
That's really interesting. And it's so true. When you're not focused on yourself, when you're always looking for what can I do for you, what's in it for them, it's always a better way to operate. And it always comes back to you. So you had a little bit of a challenge, though. Somewhere after that, you had an accident.
Yeah, well, things were going fantastic for me. I was living in a gorgeous home down in Atlanta, and just really loving living. In Atlanta, we say that we're just north of the South and just south of the North. So it was great for a boy who grew up in Philadelphia, and then spent my early adult years down in South Florida. Atlanta was like the promised land for me, because it really did bring together the things that I loved about the Northeast and the things that I loved. Well, South Florida is really just a suburb of New York, but the rest of the South, it sort of was that great middle ground, and it's the largest and most busy hub in North America, if not in the world, for airlines. So there was always international traffic coming in, and I was loving life and really at the top of my game when one day, November 29th, actually, in 2007, I was walking from a store carrying packages to my car, and according to the lady who was about 10 feet behind me, my body became stiff and I flew headlong into a brick wall. I shattered my AC and my humerus, my upper bones in my arm and my neck, into hundreds of pieces. My arm was dislocated. It was the most frightening experience in my life. And I was laying there unable to move. Long story short, they found out that I have young onset Parkinson's, the same type of Parkinson's that Michael J. Fox was diagnosed with. And so my body had gone stiff. And it would take them a couple months to come up with that diagnosis, but it would take, two and a half, almost 3 years of reconstructive surgeries just to rebuild my arm. While doctors were telling me that I was never going to have the use of that arm again. I was never, it was my right arm, by the way. So the whole idea of having salons and spas and being a top producer in that industry, the whole idea of treating people in the clinic was very quickly going out the window. And they were having to keep me fairly medicated, as you can imagine, because they couldn't do surgery for 17 months because of complications. And that just meant not being able to work, not being able to function. And we began at that point to start slowly but surely whittling away that savings, and we eventually lost everything.
When I speak with potential clients and current clients, active clients, one of the things I say to them is, what is your plan B? What happens if something happens to you? I meet so many business owners that are at the top of their game, men and women that are making a lot of money, but I say to them, well, what happens if you have an accident, God forbid? What if you have a car accident, a skiing accident, you can't go to work, you're in a coma? What will happen to you, your family, and your business? And, people look at you because nobody thinks something's going to happen to them, right? And so here you are, you've gone from the top of your game, making millions of dollars. You've helped, to the best of my knowledge, at least 4 or 5 people that I know of to earn over $1 million through your coaching and your mentoring, maybe more. And, all of a sudden you're now looking at, you've got nothing. And I don't mean that, I mean financially nothing. And so you have two choices, right? You could either throw in the towel, get depressed, maybe start to self-medicate, and just let life pass you by. But that's not who you are. And so we've stayed in touch. I feel very, very fortunate because I had the opportunity. I have to think about this. I'm in Florida, so to go up to Pennsylvania. You and I spent a couple of days together about a week ago, ironically, and we had some very, very serious conversations, some of which were the one I just brought up to the audience, which is, okay, now what? And I know that, you're the kind of person, like many of our listeners, who's driven and looking for the right opportunity, the right vehicle, so to say. And in your case, here's sort of our big announcement, I guess. After some serious consideration and a lot of talks, and I have to say that I need to give kudos to Lori, because even though you and I sort of laid the foundation, I was at a meeting in Fort Lauderdale, and I came back home, and she said, I want you to know I had a great conversation with John Michael. I said, my John Michael, right? She said, yeah, I had a great conversation with John Michael. And, well, I don't want to spoil the surprise. So after 21 years, in fact, we haven't seen each other physically face-to-face in 20 years. You want to tell him or you want me to tell him?
Sure, I'll give you the privilege of telling them at the very end. I just want to say that it's been an incredible past couple of weeks. I'm going to out myself as a geek a little bit right now, but as for those who couldn't figure that out already, but a couple weeks ago was the 20-something or 30th anniversary of Back to the Future, and it was the 21st of October when Marty McFly, Michael J. Fox's character, went back in time and then forward to the future was October 21st, I believe it was, 2015. Well, we were and it was Back to the Future 2. So that made me start to think, and that sort of laid the groundwork for my thought process, because everything in life for me had always been about making a decision to be a victor and not a victim. And so I started to look at where I had been in my life and the things that I had accomplished, and began to look at some of the most successful people that I've had the opportunity to partner with, including yourself, and look at the incredible things that you've accomplished over these past 20 years since we've seen one another. And I made a decision that we were going to have a conversation when you came down. You, at the same time, made a decision out of your genuine concern and compassion for me that you wanted to talk to me about the same thing. And neither one of us had vocalized that to one another previously. Right. And then, back up to about a week ago, little less than a week ago, when Lori and I were talking, and that same entrepreneurial compassion, that same servant leadership, that we were just talking about, what I call primary greatness, inspired Lori to say, John Michael, have you ever considered working together with Steve again? Because really and truly, when I look back at 35 years, and I've had the opportunity to work with some really terrific people, and I'm genuinely grateful for those experiences. But there's never been a time when I felt more at home, when I felt more in total sync with a business partner as I did with you. And there hasn't been a time, selfishly, when I felt as like I was having as much fun doing it, because we work well together. We're a great fit. I think we complement one another because we bring balance. We bring that yin and yang. And I very quickly, when I got a chance to virtually meet Lori by telephone and video conferencing, felt that same kind of connection with her. So it was a no-brainer for me that we take that next step. And now I'll let you have the privilege of actually going that one step further and telling them what I mean when I share this excitement.
So, John Michael, I want you to know that normally at this time of the show we take a break, but we have a lot to cover, and so I'm going to look at George now and just say, can we just keep rolling?
We're canceling the break today.
No breaks, no sponsors.
We're
this one's on us. Well, obviously our audience has figured out that you and I, after 21 years of not working together, have found a project that we're both extremely excited about, and it's not about us, though. That's the thing. We have found a way to really bring empowerment to a lot of people around the world, and we mean that financially, emotionally, spiritually, physically, and so many other ways. And there's so much to life. I mean, as you know, when we first met each other, we were in our 20s. Very, very different than now, or I'm sorry, in our 30s, but it's still very different than when you're in your early 50s. You wrote a blog article the other day on your Barefoot Millionaire, which I love the title, website, your blog, and it was entitled When an Entrepreneurial Hippie Comes of Age. And so people listening might go, well, wait a minute, you just took a segue sort of around what you were talking about, this partnership, but it's not. It's really important because the reason that you and I, when we first worked together, and we did make some really significant money for ourselves, but more importantly, helped a lot of people, is that you and I were both, I would consider to be technology geeks, you even more so than I, and you got frustrated because some of the people we were working with weren't ready to embrace some of the changes that we could see coming down the road. They weren't. Some of these things weren't even available yet, or they were very, very close to coming out. And you have two kinds of people. Those that are sort of early adapters that go, I can't wait to get this. Those are the ones who stand 2 days early to get the iPhones in front of the Apple store, right? And then you've got other people that go, I'm just going to wait because, what's so great about this thing called an iPhone? I still have my flip phone with the antenna. That would be you, George, right? But so you got frustrated and for personal reasons, we not each other, but with some of the folks we were working with, you decided to go in a different direction. And when this hippie comes of age article, this blog post, really was a very telling article, and I commend you because some people could look back and go, "Wow, if I hadn't made that decision 21 years ago, where would I be financially and the people I worked with?" And they could be so angry and want to point blame at other people that they would not be willing to reevaluate. But that's not what you did. So maybe you could share it like the sort of Reader's Digest, if I can use that term, version of the blog post. And of course, our listeners are welcome to go to your Barefoot Millionaire blog site and read the article in its entirety because it's great.
Sure. If I could do the quick plug, they can go to barefootmillionairemastermind.com and find that article. But, to kind of give the summary, first I want to say two things. One was that, I'm not a superstar. I'm just like everybody else. And so originally for many years, I did feel, hurt and angry and frustrated. And excuse me, that was part of that process, I think, of coming to a realization of what was going on. But, I don't want to downplay the fact that there was a dark period, a grieving period, and a frustration and hostility that I felt about people not seeing what you and I could see. But in also looking back now, 20 years ago, I wasn't the same person that I am today. I've grown and hopefully have really evolved for the better. And part of that process that I recently went through when I was writing that article, it was sort of the culmination of that process, was recognizing that the folks back then, 20 years ago, aren't the same people they were either. And really and truly, I can look back now and say, those problems, those issues that we had with some of the folks that were not willing to embrace new media and understand the benefits of the internet, their concerns were legitimate concerns from their perspective, because what they didn't want to see happen was they didn't want to see the process of relationship building upon which their entire company and project was founded. They didn't want to see that personal connection lost. They understood that this was all about me connecting with another person and about servant leadership. And to them, if you didn't understand that the internet was high tech but also high touch, most folks didn't see that high touch feature, and they were worried that was going to get lost in the translation.
Yeah, you're absolutely right. I was just thinking to myself that one of the things that we learn over and over throughout our life and life lessons is that we're constantly learning and changing and evolving, hopefully, as people. And to be open to change it's enlightening, and in often cases it can be very, very healing. And so, in your case, that was very significant. So now I want to go with that thought for a minute, because you talk about relationships and we talk about giving people life skills throughout some of the things that we are about to introduce together. But in terms of like relationship marketing and social media marketing, how has all that changed the landscape over the last couple of years, with your experience?
Well, one of the things that I recognized was early on in my career, I was privileged to be part of a company that brought the first product in the market segment to the marketplace, and it was bringing herbal weight loss and herbal nutrition to the marketplace. Well, as you said earlier, the internet was nothing like it is today. In fact, when I first started building an international business, it was sitting in front of my computer with a service called Prodigy.com, which only the old timers are going to remember, and it was a bulletin board system. There was no website. There was no such thing as a website. And it was just sending messages back and forth on this virtual bulletin board. And then I'd have to put a package in the mail and send it to people. Well, At that time, because there was no information superhighway, there was no websites for people to go and do research on. People had to just accept my authority or my experience or my testimonials as the foundation for building that sales relationship. Today, that's completely changed because we now talk to people about a particular product, and the first thing they do is they go on the website and they go on Google and they look up those ingredients and they look to see what other companies have those kind of products and what kind of research exists. And so it really drove home for me over the last 5 years the importance that if people are going to continue to succeed in the internet landscape, that they're going to be able to, they have to bring value to the marketplace. And the way that you bring value to the marketplace isn't by going out there and peddling your products harder. It's not by, you hear a lot of people say it's all about the grind. Well, I don't know about that, because for me, it's been less of a grind because I'm not out there playing the used car salesman. I'm out there establishing relationships. I'm getting to know people. And that's what you and I are have always been about. And what we're bringing, I think, to the table with this project that's so exciting is this empowerment opportunity is about moving people outside of that mindset of, this is the product I use and you need to use it too, and this is the best product and you need to use it too. It's all about helping people to find those inner resources to solve the biggest problems that they face. And those biggest problems that I don't think anybody would argue with right now is having more time freedom and having more financial freedom, having more money at the end of the day for the things that they normally, just go out there and buy in the course of a month, having more time at the end of the day to do the things that really matter for them. Yeah. And so we're empowering them to actually live life more effectively, more efficiently.
You seem extremely enthusiastic right now, and especially about some of these changes. So tell me, how does a professional marketer then sort of build their brand if you're not posting, links and ads and pushing all your stuff out on Facebook and Twitter and sell? What is the difference between that and, say, social acceptance?
Well, I think the idea is that that we understand that people don't buy products, they buy results, but people also don't join companies, they join people. And you're not going to think about the last time that you, if you're listening to or watching the show, the last time you joined an organization, whether it was a church or synagogue, whether it was a social group or even a group of just friends, you joined that group because you connected with the people. You didn't connect with the name of the group or the necessarily anything other than the fact that there was a connection between two hearts, between two minds, and so we understand that instead of, it's more effective to go out there every single, find 4 or 5 people that you can connect with, that you can build up, that you can add value to their lives, than it is to say, hey, here's my website, go look at my link, or here's my landing page, go put in your name and email address.
That's true. And, people, obviously, they buy from people that they like and they trust and they do relationships. This particular business, obviously, Lori's not only my wife, she's my business partner. And for Lori, this business has meant sort of, come home, come with me, right? For me, it might mean that I see something in you and I want to show you something. In other words, it's all about partnerships. And partnerships bring this value. So in the beginning, 1 and 1 does not always equal 2. In our relationship, right, I always say that, like, I'm the hunter-gatherer, right? And when I say our relationship, I'm talking about Lori and I. So I'm like the hunter-gatherer. I'm the one who likes to go out there, and my best and highest use is I find the clients. I like to go out there and sort of be more upfront sales, if you want to use that term, person. But then I bring them home, and Lori sort of cooks them, So I hunt them and she cooks them. In other words, that's our best and highest use. She keeps them happy. She's the nurturer. And now we've added you to this partnership, so to say, and now we've got a situation where we've got sort of the hunter-gatherer, the nurturer, the geek who knows how to teach people how to go out and build their brand and be successful and generate revenue. I'm just saying, like, look, come with me, right? That's like Lori. So do this. She'll be like, come on, come with me, and it's exactly what happened when I went out there and sort of hit you over the head. I flew up to New York. I was in Connecticut for a couple of days. Made a point to make sure I got down to Pennsylvania so we could spend a few days talking, and sort of laid that foundation. But I wasn't able to, if you want to use the word, seal the deal, so to say. I got you to the point. Bless you, George.
Thank you.
Wow, that was very professional. Not to sneeze into the
broadcast
microphone.
sneeze there.
That was good. So I was able to bring you, like, if this were a scenario of a football game, I was able to bring you down to like the 1 yard line, but I wasn't able to get over the goal line. And it took the nurturer, my partner, right, the perfect partnership, to then be able to say, okay, well, let's keep running. Let's not stop at the 1 yard line. And so it's powerful when you bring good people together with positive skills and energy. And so, as I said, this is a great, I'm so honored, number one, that you were willing to come out of your retirement, and number two, to come out of your retirement and work with us, and allow us to work with you, and more importantly, to bring this message to potentially millions and millions of people all over on 4 different continents right now. And it's fun, and it's going to be exciting. Already we've started to put things together that even make my head spin. And Laura used to think I was the uber geek. And I think that you have dethroned me, so to say. So, and I'm honored. The best thing about good people is they surround themselves with better people. We always like to say things. We try to teach our clients that if you're the smartest person in the room, you're in the wrong room, which means that I have to leave the studio pretty soon, George. Sorry. Oh my goodness. So, John Michael, obviously, behind the scenes, I guess, Lori is always in the background saying things like, you have to be strategic, and you have to do this or you have to do that. I have like a coach whispering in my ear, because if I'm the face of the company sometimes, and I am definitely not the best looking face of the company, but I am the face of the company when I'm out there talking to people. But what makes a good partnership good also is the willingness to listen and collaborate, and again, not only best and highest use, but sometimes my best and highest use might not be marketing, but I might say something that triggers something to the two of you, and together, between your internet savvy and Lori's marketing savvy, brings a really good piece to the puzzle. So and it's nice to be able to sort of be in that opportunity where, again, everything is with intent or intentional. So I want to just tell our listeners, we talked about a couple things. Number one, we talked about the fact that we're going to make a big announcement. I think that if we haven't made it very clear, that you and Lori and I have partnered up for the first time, you and I, again, in over 20 years, to bring really what I believe is a phenomenal situation. And we're looking to provide those life skills to all of our listeners, and to allow you, whether you're selling widgets on the internet, life insurance, health insurance, you're a route salesman for Frito-Lay, it doesn't matter to me. We want to help you to change your attitude, your life. We're not looking for investment partners, but we have put together a program that we know can be really game-changing and life-changing, and I'm excited, and it takes a lot for me to get really, really excited, and this did it. The other thing is, we talk about life skills, and you wrote a book, and the reason I'm mentioning this is we talked about a special gift at the end. I actually was reading the book last night, and I have to still finish it up, but help me pronounce this correctly. Is it Sunyasha or Sunyata?
Shunyata.
Shunyata.
As if it was SH in the beginning.
Okay, so tell our listeners a little bit about Shunyata and
Sure.
what it means.
The book was sort of my I'm by profession I'm a Buddhist monk, and I was the abbot of a monastery for 29 years. And in addition to everything else that I was doing, that was sort of my grounding point. And the book was my going away present to the monastery. When I was retiring from the monastery, I wanted to write this book as sort of sort of my going away gift to these monks with whom whom I taught and had the privilege of serving the sick and the poor and the homeless for 29 years. And the word shunyata means emptiness. And so the title of the book is Shunyata, the Transformative Power of Emptiness. And it's one of those things that was a life-changing understanding for me, that sometimes, and this experience in business was just a great illustration and a great fit for explaining emptiness, because you have to sometimes reach the point that I was at where you lose everything. And when you lose everything, you lose the things that you might have taken for granted. And it also gives you a different perspective, because you're not standing on top of that mountain anymore. Now you might be standing in the valley, and you say, wow, I didn't see this when I was on top of the mountain. And one of those things for me was recognizing that everything that we experience in life is a reflection of a belief that we hold on the subconscious level, or some chaotic data, I call it, that some misperceptions that are strictly based on the lens through which we interpret what's going on all around us. So I wrote a book so that people could begin to explore the possibilities of taking 100% responsibility for everything that happens in their life. Good, whether we perceive it as good, we perceive it as bad, we perceive it as neutral. And this book walks you through how to come to that process to where you're actually learning how to, at the end of the day, forgive yourself for the things that you might have done that you wish you hadn't done, for the things you wish that you had done that you didn't get around to doing, and for the times when your perception might have been askew, and you gave up right before, when you were on that I'm not a football guy, so I don't know whether you say the 99th yard line or the 49th yard line, but you were right there before the touchdown place.
We did refer to the 1 yard line, but it's very interesting to me how life comes full circle, because you wrote that book how many years ago?
About 6 years ago.
Okay, so you wrote the book 6 years ago. Then you recently write this article, When an Entrepreneurial Hippie Comes of Age. And they're very, very similar in thought content, which is, you need to see everything and not just assume you're at the top of the world, but understand sort of that there could be a bottom, and all of that from your book. And then when the entrepreneurial hippie comes of age, you're really saying, you know what? We all shouldn't try to be so smart. And that sometimes we have to embrace change, or give people the opportunity to prove to us that they've changed, or that they see things differently than they may have years ago. Now, I'm not saying that's always the case, but at least to be open-minded enough to accept that might be the case. And in your case, you consistently come back to me now, or constantly come back to me now via phone call, text, whatever, and you go, wow, I can't believe it. Look at this change. Wow, look at this. These guys did an unbelievable job. So we're going to, just to go back to your book for a second, in a few minutes before we wrap the show up, I'm going to give you the opportunity to tell our listeners how they can get a free copy of that book. And by the way, this is a big book. If I recall, it's about 150 pages. And so there's a lot of content. It's not a one-time read through. I think it's one of these things that's sort of like an onion. Every time you read it, you sort of peel back some of the onion peels, and you look back and you go, wow, there's something I missed. How did I miss that? But I think it's just your ability to sort of comprehend step by step by step. The second thing is, we're going to tell people where they can go to connect with you, to learn a little bit more about what we're doing. In terms of how they can participate, how they can get involved as a partner of ours, and just to get more information. And that's it. We're not looking for investment partners. We're looking for some real great people. This is a very reflective time of year. This is the time of year. We're coming up on Thanksgiving for those of us in the States. We've got, the holidays, Christmas, Hanukkah, etc. coming up. And then we move into the end of the year. And we're not that many weeks away from where people are going to be making New Year's resolutions. But even before that, there are probably families right now thinking, I'm weeks away from Christmas or the holidays, and I don't know how it is that I'm going to be able to pay for presents. There's that single mom who's sitting in her home right now or work and would do anything to be able to be home with her kids and to be able to give them the kind of life that she had hoped financially to be able to provide. There's the dad who's out there and he's working, 2 jobs. His wife is working a job and wants to be able to give his kids, a vacation just once a year, or just feel like maybe he could be home with his spouse at night instead of working that second job. The stories go on and on and on and on, and it's simply a matter of looking at yourself and saying, am I that person? Do I want something better from my life? I personally believe that I've never met anybody who said this is my second time around here on Earth. So until I meet that person, I believe that we are only here on this planet one time. And so you can make it good or you can make it great. And why not? Why not you? Why not now? Why not make it the best life you could ever make for not only yourself, but for everybody around you? If you had a gift and you could give it to people, in fact, you weren't allowed to keep it, and you had to give it away, and you only had 24 or 48 hours to give that gift away, but that gift would change people's lives in any way they wanted to change it, physically, financially, spiritually, emotionally, whatever. How many people would you tell? How fast would you start telling people? How would you do it? Would you get on the internet and tell the world? Would you call everybody you loved? What would you do? And I feel like right now, John Michael, you and Lori and I have that gift. The only thing we don't have is we're not limited by 48 hours. But I'll tell you what, I can't wait to stand on top of the mountains and tell people. I can't wait to sit there and be on a screen with you or in an arena in front with all of us to be able to hear the stories back from other people who say, I heard the show, or I didn't hear the show live, but I was connected back with you guys, and you know what? Thank you. That's what it's about. It is not about the financial reward. You know what they say? You give enough, help enough people get what they want, and you will get what you want without having to try, essentially. I kind of bastardized that, but that's the point. It's not about what's in it for me. We've been blessed, thank goodness, and now we have this opportunity to pass that blessing forward, and I am personally not stopping until we're done, and I don't know if there's a finish line here. So I guess that football player is just going to run and run and run, and we're not going to get tired because energy creates energy, and we are going to take this thing to the top, and all we want to do is have you come with us. Join us. Take a look. Learn about. Don't be closed-minded. Don't be the entrepreneurial hippie that never came of age. Don't be, I guess it would be the anti-shunyata, right? Be that open-minded person. And I'm not asking you to do something crazy. I'm just saying connect with John Michael or Lori and myself and just ask some questions or just have a conversation. Tell us what you're thinking, where you are in your life right now. Sometimes I look at myself in my mid-50s, early 50s actually, and I feel like, this is the sweet spot of sort of my career. Because when you're a little younger, you have a lot of energy, but you don't always have the experience. But when you're in that sort of 50, 55, 60, 65, you still have the energy, and you still have the ability to take that football and run all the way over the goal line. But you also have the skills to be able to look back. You have the education, you have the experience, and you also don't necessarily have the ego that like a young buck running, wild in the beginning stages of his or her career. It's about me. I got to show everybody I can do it. When I know it's another sports analogy, and I know that's going to, sort of make both your head and George's head sort of spin around. However, both of you know, and our audience knows, I love to play ice hockey, and I'm an avid ice hockey player. I've been playing all my life.
Hockey, I understand.
Okay, so this is the part.
I skate.
There you go. You do roller skate. But here's the thing. At 53, I am not in the physical shape that a 23-year-old is. I might be able to start the game as well as he does, but I'm not going to finish, 3 periods of hockey at the same level of intensity that a 23-year-old can, because we're just, that 30 years makes a difference. But the reason that I'm still able to score goals and help my team win games is because at 53, I play smarter. I don't play necessarily harder. I know where to be. I know the play to make. I know where to pass the puck. I know who's going to be open. I think before I do, and I may not be the one scoring the most goals, but I may be the one helping other people on my team score the most goals. And it doesn't matter because they both count and they both help win games. And that's the difference between somebody in their 20s who's running a business and getting excited about their career and somebody in their 40s and 50s and 60s who's sitting there and going, okay, it's less about the ego. It's more about helping other people. I would love to sit there and have somebody from our audience call up in a few months and who's in their 20s or 30s and say, wow, it was great to be able to learn from somebody who had that experience, because, if you don't have a mentor, you're running in circles. Every one of us that I know who's been successful in life and in business has that mentor and has somebody that they look up to. And I know that you do a lot of coaching. Lori does a lot of coaching, and that takes a special skill to be able to be that kind of coach who listens and learns, etc. So with that, John Michael, we're going to be putting up the music to wrap this show. But before we do, number one, how does somebody get a copy of your book?
They can go to prosperityreinvented.com.
prosperityreinvented.com.
There's a form right there on the first page. And when we send you the copy of the book, we'll tell you how you can connect to our free weekly coaching sessions where we can help you there. The way you just explained it, Steve, I wanted to be able to stand on the sidelines and say, run, Forrest, run. I've always wanted to say that. You got me excited enough that I want to join you on the project that we're about to launch, all over again. So guys, go to prosperityreinvented.com. I'll send you a copy of the book. We'll let you know whenever any new videos or new books are coming out. We'd love to have you jump on the free mentoring process. And thanks for having me on the show, guys.
John Michael, it's a pleasure. 21 years, well worth the wait. I can't wait to have you back on the show again. I have a list of questions. We'll talk more about internet marketing, relationship marketing, and all of those things that can help our listeners in much more detail. That's a show in itself, maybe several shows. Thanks for taking the time out of your busy day. And prosperityreinvented.com. I'm Steve Gordon. You're listening to CEOmanship Radio and CEOmanship Television on SoFloRadio.com. Have a great week.
You're listening to SoFloRadio.com.